magnificent performance. And all day long, the plan looked to be there from UAE to use their overall strength, the strength in numbers, not so much as worried about chasing a breakaway that was up the road, but setting a strong pace all day, making sure they did it from a long way out to just build that fatigue into the legs of the others, where Pogacar could eventually make his attack. It took a long time, 840 metres from
what up?
Is where the acceleration came from Pogacar. And
how's
which
everybody?
He also explained it was a bit due to the fact that the earlier gradients were not steep enough and it was a headwind. But it took everything he had to dislodge Jonas Vingegaard. Great battle, and I hope and I believe many more to come yet in this tour. And so much speculation too around people saying, but Vingegaard, he's only going to get better. I'm not 100% sure on that. He may get better, but there's a school of thought, and it's backed by sports science, scientific evidence of when you don't have enough of a foundation, you then over a 3-week race that is unrelenting, you probably don't have the foundation necessary to cope with all of that anaerobic intensity that you come up against in a race and deal with the fatigue day to day and that build of fatigue. So only time will tell which way it's going to go. And certainly Jonas Vingegaard had fighting words after the finish, and a sort of a backhanded compliment to Pogacar. He was strong, but I expected to be further down. He's only 50 seconds ahead. And he said, "My time will come." It was like something out of a movie.
I hope so. You know, we don't want to break him either. And, you know, don't be surprised if on the second rest day there is no Jonas Vingegaard, but it'd be delightful if he goes all the way. Mathieu Vercher slotting into the role taken by Fabien Grelier a couple of days ago. Total Energies being lent on to at least be part of proceedings, but Clément Rousseau, no slouch. And it's a long way, a long reach before we get to the intermediate sprint. It would have been nice, to be honest, if we'd had it early, and that would have sparked everyone on, Sean, to dig in as we saw yesterday.
It would, if it was, you know, in the first 50 kilometres, for example, there'd be a lot more interest from the fast men that want to pick up the points for the green jersey classification. But unfortunately, you know, it's a long ways into the stage, and you know, 123 kilometres, and that has dented, you know, the thoughts of maybe trying to control things and push on. But at the moment, you know, it's pretty under control for the men that want to pick up the points at that green jersey classification point, because, you know, 2 men out in front, they'll just tab them now at probably that's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then they will reel them in as they get closer to that, and we will see that battle between the fast men for the points at the intermediate sprint point, as we see yesterday as well. You know, it was hotly contested, and we should see the same situation today. But yeah, the 2 men out in front, it's going to be a long, hard day, as we can see there. Headwind and being controlled already by some of the fast men's teammates.
I do wonder why Clément Rousseau has been the man that's been chosen to go up the road. It's not been a great tour so far, Robbie, for David Gaudu and Lenny Martinez. Some big holes in that boat.
I don't know if they're holes in the boat or the boat just got split in two and went straight under. To be honest, day one, and their big GC hope, David Gaudu, lost 29 minutes. That's hitting an iceberg, isn't it? And
I thought I was being moderately unkind, but you just launched a torpedo.
No, well, yeah, but it's kind of like that. Someone launched a torpedo at their GC boat, and I don't think it's being unkind. I mean, it's pointing out the obvious, really, isn't it? It's been a disaster as far as their GC hopes go, but now they're trying to pivot. Yesterday, they were in the break with Valentin Madouas, with David Gaudu. You know, they had 3 riders in the break yesterday, so they're trying to be aggressive. So they're trying to just turn things around and make something of this. We're in the peloton at the moment. They're making nothing of it. We spoke about that intermediate sprint just a few moments ago. Comes with around 54 kilometres to go. After that, it's just 16 kilometres to the final climb of the day, that Cat 4, which is 3K long with a 3K extension. if any of the fast men are thinking about green, they need to sprint, but it could sting the legs enough to put them in trouble on that Cat 4 climb.
It's almost a party atmosphere back here. Brian Coquart just shooting the breeze, as you can see, with Ollie Nace. There we are, talking about everything. Sartorial elegance, that's part of it. Talking about his specs at the moment. There we are, it's like being on board a car. Happy days for him. We do have a breakaway, it's a modest one. Although Clément Rousseau has been off up the road, we were speculating as to why it should be him, because he's the fast man for Groupama Francis de Jeu. And we've been talking about the damaged vessel that is, I think, Groupama Francis de Jeu, with David Godot and Lenny Martinez really blowing up on the opening days of what's been a very tough race. And to be honest, their failings magnified really by the success of Arkea B&B Hotels and, of course, Romain Bardet for Team DSM Firmenich PostNL. Two French winners right at the top. Nobody from Groupama Francis de Jeu. They have to recalibrate, and Roy McEwen saying that they have pivoted. Well, we'll see what days they want to shine. Today is a difficult one to shine in unless you have fast legs, and Clément Rousseau is not the quickest. Let's speak to Jensi.
And here on the other side of this little traffic divider, we have the hardest working man in the entire peloton, Tim de Klerk, the trucker we call him. He can ride basically 500 miles on the front of a peloton each day. He is my absolute hero. Not often will he be mentioned, but he is one of the hardest working, most loyal team members you can ever hope for to have on your side. So chapeau and hats off to Tim de Klerk from Lidl Trek. Back to the commentators.
Well, he can drive 500 miles. I think he's been listening to the Proclaimers, Sean.
Comfortable.
Sean, have you found the
Comfortable.
800-kilometre stage in the road book yet? I must be missing that page.
You know, thank God there's not one because
we flattened into a headwind.
Yes,
with one
exactly.
in the breakaway.
Yeah, we need 4 teams to rotate if we had a stage of that distance. But yeah, Tim de Klerk, as there's a lot of riders here, maybe they don't get you know, the credit for what they have to do and the work they put in. But you know, that's all part of a professional team. You need those domestiques, and yeah, he is a solid rider. And you know, to get over the mountains for a big guy like that, those guys have to really dig deep on those days, and then they're back to work the following day. And we'll see Tim a bit later on when they want to, you know, up the pace here. He will be one of the ones who will be preparing the sprint for the Lidl Trek team.
Well, just passing by the Grand Pic de Lausière, highest point in the Lausière Massif at 2,829 meters. It overlooks actually a glacier, the Cellier Glacier, possibly in homage to Philippe Cellier, who's one of our senior chaps here at Discovery and Eurosport. Yep. And yesterday we came out of Briançon, which Mogudi, also very much part of our team here. So yeah, we've got a smattering of those who have been local. This man, Gaviria, I was really happy to see him high up towards the pointy end, losing out to Biniam Gamay, but Gaviria on his day can turn it around. Let's hear from Astana.
Chat with Gaviria also about yesterday. Ask him if his shoulder's okay.
Oh. That was a bit spiky there, Robbie.
Yeah, that does Mark Renshaw from the Astana Kazakhstan team. And for those who don't read between the lines of what Mark Renshaw said, he's alluding to Fernando Gaviria allegedly holding on to a team car. If his shoulder's sore.
No, I'm just wondering whether it was. Did it get a bit brutal in the approach? Is that what it's about?
No.
Oh dear. Well, I don't think we'll add to the.
Well, I said allegedly, so
yeah.
But that's whoa, that was spicy.
I thought he was talking about a little bit of shoulderage, and I thought coming from Mark Renshaw, who's given to using the head in the past.
Not on a mountain stage. Shouldering for position, coming to the KOM for 157th place. I don't think so.
Sean,
that's
an audible tease from the radio.
Well, there have to be something there. Otherwise, we'd not hear from Renshaw. And, you know, sometimes the sticky bottles as well, you know, they can see and they know maybe there's no commissar around and the sticky bottle can go on for a long time. And, yeah, the team directors can see that. If you're in the, you know, if you're in the cavalcade of cars, maybe something like that, or maybe something we get more, we don't know. But certainly, you know, it was going to be mentioned to him.
Yeah, if a director's going to say it, you've got to go with where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly.
After that, maybe they'll be keeping a little bit closer eye around the back end of the peloton for such incidents.
Well, where there's smoke, it also means that you put the fire out. So let's wait and see.
Sam, another opportunity today, 9th the other day, so pretty solid. Maybe a little bit of increased pressure because it's we're not too far away from the base of the team.
Yeah, that's true too. Bit unlucky the first day. We were well up there, and then the last 300 meters I just couldn't find an opening. And the last 200 meters we ended up freewheeling in the wheels, and it's quite annoying when you're there and you can't actually launch a sprint. But yeah, hopefully we can get it right today. And yeah, it's always a bit of a gamble. You know, Tour de France is quite a high level, and you have to take the risk and try and come from behind, because you know, if you go 200 nowadays, it's often too early. So you have to pray that you can get out in the last 100 meters and that you still have the legs.
Our statisticians back at Eurosport headquarters have been thumbing back through the records. You were third here in the Dauphiné in 2016. Can you remember much about the finish?
Nope. Didn't even know that until you said it. I just get in the bus and I just go wherever the bike's set up and race till it says kilometer zero.
So what do you know about the finish? Say for your memory, how did the meeting go this morning in terms of studying it, especially with the headwind?
Yeah, just go through Google Maps, seeing how.
Almeida being one of those. So I think it's just building up this narrative as well for us and for the viewers. We talk about Visma Lease Bike as having a weaker team in comparison to UAE here, which we've seen different, of course, in the past, where Visma have come in with the strongest team. We're kind of trying to put them on level playing fields and say, well, you know, for UAE, could this be at the detriment to their quest for the yellow jersey?
I think they'll rectify the situation pretty quickly with
sure
a robust discussion in the team meeting. But yeah, for Ayuso, you know, with the strength in numbers, with the power they have, Ayuso could have done much more damage to that group by going all out to set up the attack. That end up coming quite a bit later on the steeper slopes at higher altitude.
We've told you who's in the breakaway. Here are the chasers. Sylvain Dillier and Tim de Klerk. 2 versus 2. Doesn't look like a fair fight now, does it really? With all respect to Rousseau and Vercher, 2 experts and exponents of chasing the breakaway art. The very best in the world are doing their job right now. We're having a look round, passing through the valleys as we move away from the mountains. Here's the Église Saint-Georges, Romanesque Gothic church. And there is Romain Sicard, former winner of the Tour de l'Avenir. There was a lot of pressure on that young man when he won that race. Actually started his career at Euskaltel. Of course, he is of French nationality, but I realised that for our Basque viewers and listeners, that might be a bone of contention, given various political views and historic views. He is from the historic Basque country, from the very southwest of what is now France, Romain Sicard. So he is from Euskal Herria, which translates from Basque as the Basque homeland. So was allowed to ride for Euskaltel when they had the Basques-only policy. Of course, he won that Tour de l'Avenir for France, and well, when you're a French rider, you win the Tour de l'Avenir. There's quite a bit of pressure on you. He's now working for Total Energy as a sports director, having retired from professional cycling. Just away in the breakaway there with Matteo Verci.
Well, guys, it is slated as a sprint stage, and we all believe in it becoming a bunch sprint at the end of the day to decide the victor. And the sprinters, they make their particular selections about equipment going into today, from aero nose pieces like Dylan Groenewegen is sporting, which I've got to say,
back, isn't he?
I don't think they could pay me enough to wear, or maybe they could pay me enough. It depends on the number, but it's,
of course they could.
It's horrible. It's horrible. It's really. But the weird thing about that is like what we're supposing is for aerodynamics, and I guess it aerodynamically would work, but looks horrible. But also, start of the day at least, he's not wearing an aero helmet. It's got open vents in the helmet. So if you're going to go as far as a nose piece on the glasses, you'd think you'd at some stage go with the fully closed in aero helmet as well. But otherwise, it's more about gear selection based on gradient of that final kilometre, wind direction. There's not a lot today, 10, 12 kilometres an hour, maybe a gust here and there up to 25k an hour, but it should be just against them. So gear selections is really interesting. Jakobsen 56.11, same for Dumas. Brian Coquard, smaller, lighter guy, higher cadence, 54.11, still enormous. Walt van Aert 56.10. This will be more about chain alignment. He won't sprint on the 10. It's enormous. It's just too big. Bennett 55.11, Gaviria 54.10. The ones with 10 are riding SRAM, the others on Shimano.
Not too much change for the two up the road at the Tour de France. It's the day after the revolution today. The first big Alpine shake-up of the general classification happened. It was racing, not gliding down the hill, wasn't it, for Tadej Pogačar? I think I read that in the first part of the descent to Plain-l'Archet, he was 1 second slower than Tom Pidcock when he did that descent a couple of years ago. So Pogačar, despite the odd little wet bits on the road, was really pushing it yesterday, and you could see most of his advantage. He's got, what, 45 seconds on Evenepoel now in the general classification, 50 on Vingegaard. Most of that advantage was taken on the descent and not the uphill. If you're Jonas Vingegaard and you're looking for an indication on form, I guess you can say, well, the only real difference there was 7 or 8 seconds if he wants to look at things in a positive light.
Yeah, I think so. And he was obviously railing it down that descent, wasn't he? But he was also flying uphill. I was actually looking at the record for the Galibier climb, and it was held by Quintana back in 2019 with a time of 22 minutes and 28 seconds. Tadej Pogačar yesterday, 20 minutes and 48 seconds, so nearly 2 minutes faster. There are obviously lots of different things we need to take into consideration here, the advancements of technology, the wind, teammates, etc., etc. But
well, that was into a headwind yesterday as well, it's worth saying, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Even so, he's flying. But going downhill, he is good. We know he's good on the downhill, but for Vingegaard and his form in terms of climbing, I think he'll take a lot of confidence out of that. He said he expected at this stage to be over 2 minutes down, and he's not. So I think
do you think that's a little bit of psychological warfare?
Maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is. But I think this is what we were all talking about, weren't we? How UAE were going to set it on fire in the first week and put minutes into Vingegaard, who's come into here looking to build throughout the tour. And I think it really isn't over, and everyone's willing, as the underdog for Vingegaard coming back for the crash, to go neck and neck all the way into Nice with Pogačar.
Yeah, definitely not over, and I think Jonas Vingegaard has outdone everybody's expectations of him in this first week. And maybe there's a little bit of psychology in it saying, well, you know, I'm only 50 seconds behind. I expected to be 2 minutes behind. That little bit of a dig. Say, well, you know, Pogačar's good, but not as good as I thought. Not that much better than me at the moment. And you know, that quote where he said, "My time will come." Trying to be as ominous as possible for someone who weighs 57 kilo.
Yeah, maybe gravity was on the side of Pogačar slightly more than Vingegaard. But I think
yeah, on the way down, possibly. But definitely
on the way down, I'm talking about.
On the climb, though, Vingegaard was really impressive. Just an 8-second gap over the top. But just quickly back to that Strava record on the climb itself. I thought I'd have a little dig at Tadej as well. You remember earlier in the season, he put something on Twitter about who the hell is flagging my efforts on Strava. And once I saw that on there yesterday, Strava put up a post about Tadej's record on the Galibio. I said, oh, just how would one go about flagging an effort? I'm just asking for a friend. But comparing those efforts, like a minute 40 faster than Nairo Quintana, the previous record holder on the climb, as you said, Danny, so many things you've got to take into consideration. And I think the biggest thing was the pace with which they tackled the climb and sustained from bottom to top with the UAE team, which was not the case when Nairo Quintana set that time up there. So I hate comparing the same climb in different editions of a race with all the differences that there are in weather conditions, pacing, where it is on the course, if it's the last one, early on, how aggressive the race has been, etc. It's a very impressive climb by both. But Pogacar got the job done yesterday.
That's the turntable, the railway roundhouse. Built in the early 1900s. The largest railway roundhouse ever built in France. Giant turntable in there to turn the engines round. And we're going to turn it round and go to our interview microphones.
Phil, it looks like we have almost 100% another sprinter day ahead. What would be your ideal scenario for the last, let's say, 5 kilometers?
Yeah, to be with my teammates, like a bit more organized together, and yeah, that I get a good run into the last kilometer with hopefully good legs, and yeah, that I then can fight for a good position myself, and yeah, perfectly come from a good sprinter's rear, and yeah, hopefully then aim for the podium.
Is there any technical or tricky parts within the last kilometers, special corners, roundabouts, or is it more or less a straight run into the finish?
Yeah, you have a bit more wind from the side, I think, and then like inside of the last 3 kilometers, you turn right. You have a few roundabouts, but yeah, I think it's all okay. And then you have headwind to the finish, what it makes always a bit difficult for the timing, because yeah, if you are too early, your legs will run out of energy. They will pass you. If it's too late, you're blocked. So it's a lot about the timing.
And apart from yourself, who do you see is in the best shape from the sprinters? Apart from yourself, of course.
Yeah, I think Philipsen, of course, is good. Groenewegen is doing good. Like the guys who mainly also finished in front on the first day. Guillermo won, of course. I mean, Pedersen, yeah, Gaviria did a good sprint. So I think we have plenty of good sprinters here. But like you say, of course, I mainly hope, of course, that I have the best legs, maybe.
Thanks for talking to us. Good luck for today. Thank you.
Danke indeed. I tell you, that man's been training just down the road from me. The only reason I know that, I was off the airport the other week and had to do one of those double takes. He had a few days in the sunshine, a lot of others heading to altitude, but let's not forget that Bauhaus was at the Giro d'Italia, wasn't he? Wasn't feeling too well and sent home to recover, rest up, and he's hoping for some good legs, he said. Just naming some, not all of the sprinters there, showing you that it's a long, thick list of top riders. We're having a look around Chambéry here. Good job Sean Kelly's gone for his lunch. Another place he chooses to remember fondly. Let's look back at the results of the Worlds. We saw, while we were talking to Phil Bauhaus, something that's nicknamed the backsideless four. And that was that 4 elephants there. Les quatre sans cul, the backsideless 4. You see, there was sort of half an elephant built into a statue with all of their backsides pushed together and away inside the statue somewhere. The Elephant's Fountain down in Chambéry. This looks like the Carré Curial. Napoleonic barracks back from the 19th century. A cultural and commercial centre. One of a few surviving Napoleonic barracks still in France. A couple of soldiers up the road today. Local boys in Rousseau and Verchier. And we've got our own soldier back in the commentary box with us, as we soldier on rather slowly today, Adam Blythe.
Flipping out, I know that everything. I've been called a soldier, but I'll take it, Rob. Cheers, mate. I mean, soldiering on's not really the word today, is it, for these riders cruising along?
Looking for a coffee shop?
I mean, they could stop as well.
We are in France now, Adam. We've got to be careful. Struggle to find a good one.
That's also true, actually, yeah.
We're in Savoie anyway, and talking about what happened yesterday. Adam, we've just had Danny and Robbie talking about Almeida and Ayuso. Do you have a take on that? Do you have a hot take for us?
Two things with it. Ayuso needs to be pulling a little bit more. I think the situation yesterday, he slipped further back. I think on that climb yesterday, we saw Roglic do it when he looked like he was going to get dropped and Remco came past him. Sometimes you need that little, just 3-second recovery, just to back off the pedals a little bit. Been climbing for over an hour. Just need to back off for 3-4 seconds and jump back into the wheel. I think that's pretty much what he did, as we just see a little hop there from one of the Alpecin. Whoa, hey, up! Almost a crikey. But he'd have felt like an half-wit if that went down, wouldn't he? I bet Van der Poel's laughing his head off right now.
Okay, the rider it is.
Oh, yeah, he is laughing. Look, 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 he is laughing.
There's nothing wrong with his bike handling normally. He's one of the top trackies, he's Robert Hess. But yes, Mathieu van der Poel.
Bit
well
relieved
saved.
there, I think. Yeah, very well saved.
Yeah, I think back to Ayuso, I think with it is, you know, to that situation where he went back, had that little breather, jumped back in the wheels, to move back up again, it would have been very, very difficult. And Almeida just looked around, I think, and just give it the, where are you, what you're doing, you're still in this group, but you're not there, and not properly thinking about the situation. I think they're all on the limit, apart from Pogacar. So that aggression coming out there. And if there is a bit of tension between them, which there are rumours that there is a little bit, then that will come to the surface a lot quicker than what it would have done if it was any other teammate. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. I said on the breakaway earlier that, you know, these two are like fighting for that spot of second-tier leader. And I think with that is they've got to push each other to get that second spot. So they'll be wanting to do a better job than each other day in, day out, to try and prove that they're worthy of having that leadership role in the team over the other rider. So I think it'll pull them out quite a lot. I think, you know, normally with Adam Yates yesterday, you know, like no competition in terms of
But surely as a
his role.
DS, you want a rider to commit to the team plan. It's not about who finishes higher on the stage,
But
who
that's-
performs better. It's about who does that job, and whether you lose no time with Ayuso yesterday versus Almeida, who did a better job, in my opinion, for Pogacar.
What did he do
Surely you're going to
differently?
rate them. Pardon?
What did he do differently, though, to Ayuso?
Well, he put more effort into his pull on the front,
But
because
it-
otherwise he wouldn't have lost time.
But Ayuso came towards the front again, so he might have had more in the legs from that recovery that he got.
Debatable.
It is, yeah.
Oh, I love it. I
The
love it. I'll
fists are
just sit
coming
here
out
and
in the
let you-
commentary box here.
Brilliant.
That's why I go to the gym every day, Rob.
But yeah, I generally think yesterday, I don't think Ayuso necessarily did a bad job. That's what I think he did a brilliant job. He helped the team, he set the pace on the front, he did everything that he could have. And if he's still got more in the tank, or he finished higher up than Almeida, then he might not have tried as hard as he needed to, who knows? Or he might have just felt better towards the top. There's so many things, or he might have descended better. Almeida's not renowned for being a very good descender. So yeah, but generally yesterday I don't really think Ayuso did really anything wrong necessarily.
Don't tell Portuguese Twitter that. Oof.
They love a little story there, as we do though, you know, we love to like try and look into things, but I think if you look at his performance yesterday, you're like, okay, what could you have done better? Move up a few places on the Galibier and give a little bit more, but I give everything that I needed to give, and we got the stage victory and what we wanted.
I guess part of this is preconceived ideas a lot of people, we all had about it. You know, how are you going to manage so many personalities and so many good riders in one team? It's a very gifted team, but is it the police car seemed a long way from home there, didn't it? Dear me, Portland. But is it something that they're going to have to police internally? We will see. Ayuso as well, he's a confident young man, isn't he? He's a very confident young man. That's probably putting it mildly in all of his pronouncements.
And that's what
Maybe people are adding several numbers up together and coming up with the wrong answer from the song.
Yeah, that's what I find really interesting as well, how Team DS manages all these different, not just strengths within the team, but personalities as well, on and off the bike, and trying to, you know, align everyone with the same goal so everyone buys into it and gives it absolutely everything they can for whatever the plan is for that day, or the overall ambition for the whole of the tour.
Well, the man who has to do most of the managing on that front is José Fernandez, the man we know as Machin. He was the gentleman yesterday who was seen embracing Juan Ayuso straight away after the finish. Famous talent spotter and manager from the Basque Country.
See the gap coming down here, Rob. We're on that unclassified climb of the day, which looks a lot bigger and harder than the classified ones we've got, actually. It's around 12 kilometers at 3%. It almost comes in two parts. So the first up to around 101k, and then it flattens off for a couple of kilometers before then climbing up to around 95 kilometers to go. So that's why naturally we've seen this increase in pace from the peloton behind.
Welcome back, everybody. It's stage 5 today of the Tour de France. Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne all the way to Saint-Vulbas. First ever finish in Saint-Vulbas. It's a place that's hosted the Tour de l'Ain before and the Dauphiné. Nasser Bouhanni is a 3-time winner there. We've often had sprints in this place. Let's see who's going to do it today. Are we going to have a day where the record books are going to be ripped up? Mark Cavendish looking for number 35. Lots of other contenders in there too. Now it's dry for the moment, but I've just got some news from somebody I'm about to embarrass publicly.
Oi, oi.
It's a very happy birthday to producer Pete Burton.
Yes. Happy
One of our
birthday,
favourite
Peter.
people.
He is, yeah.
And he's still working hard on his birthday, Adam, because he just texted me. And he said he isn't far from the intermediate sprint. And in his brilliant words, it is lashing down.
Beautiful.
Well, you can say that from a nice, warm, dry commentary box. I think there's 174 guys out there who might not appreciate that news, though.
Well, think if there's 173 and that one does appreciate it. Imagine his morale. He'll be buzzing. It is what it is, isn't it? They're all expecting it. They've all ridden in the rain before. It'll be no surprise to them, but it'll just make things a little bit more twitchy, a bit more stressful within the peloton. Positioning will be 10k before what it probably will have been. Just the composition of the peloton, the stress around it will be a lot greater, a lot higher. And it'll just be a lot more cautious in the final. The main thing for me, Robert, I'm sure we've heard people talking about it already. We saw with that interview from Bauhaus there, chance of crosswind with 11k to go. I think if there is rain, there'll even be more of an emphasis on trying to split it there, going into the corner if it's wet, trying to get round it in first position with your team and open up out of it in hope of a split, so it makes that finish a little bit safer with less riders there.
Look like all Bill's mums, innit? Dark up ahead. Gap at 3:30 right now, with 102.5 kilometres to go. Riders sitting in. Now the Decathlon Azure Desert jerseys, it's their home stage today. Yes, their sponsor comes from northern France now. But of course they are from Chambéry. Bit of extra emphasis on working hard for Sam Bennett. In terms of Decathlon, I think one of the more disappointing things about yesterday for them was Felix Gall. It was on his terrain, wasn't it, the high mountains, and Felix Gall, you expect him to be right up there in the high mountains and then maybe fade away in a time trial or something like that. But he was one of the big losers, I thought, yesterday. Of course, yes, he's still at 3:21 down, but that's certainly one of the riders I think we expected more of.
Yeah, I think so too. We were bigging him up, weren't we, as being one of the guys that would look to be going for that general classification yesterday. He finished 11th on the stage, losing, just shy of 3 minutes actually. So I'm sure they would have been a little bit disappointed, but of course their focus today and tomorrow on Sam Bennett, who I would love to see take a victory coming into this team. Hasn't had a big win for a little while, Sam Bennett, but is knocking on the door and said he just got caught out in that final, got boxed in, but felt that he had the legs. So again, it's got to be one of the riders that we're looking at today.
He's in good form as well.
Yeah.
Dunkirk, wasn't it, that he won 2-3 stages in? I think
and
it was.
the GC.
And the GC, yeah. So it's not long ago where he was winning. I just think now's probably, I think he needs this more than ever right now in his career, just to show that he's still got it, show that he can boost it back up still, and he is still one of the top sprinters in the world. He showed that in Dunkirk, but I think on this stage here, on this platform, if he can get one, Sam's very much like Cav. You know, if he gets one, he'll probably get another one. So I think if he gets this, he'll grow in confidence a lot. And we all love Sam Bennett.
We do.
Popular rider, Sam. On our way up this climb then. And Colton Kirby was talking about this early on actually when we connected up for a sound check. His eagle eye had spotted that gets up to around 5% near the top. And Danny was just showing that this is coming down in terms of the time gap a little bit. 3.5 minutes now as we've just seen the Saint-Thibault de Couz waterfall. There it is, left-hand side. 65 metres. Some pressure in that shower, isn't there? Lunchtime for the riders. Not quite as much emphasis and focus on feed zones anymore. This is the official feed zone. Well, no chance to stop for Hutsu. Of course, he's got bar service today, hasn't he? Waiter service, given he's in the breakaway. He's got the car with him. In the meantime, there's waiter service for the guests as well, the mechanics.
They have to be fueled as well, of course. Important job in the car. Make sure they're well and truly topped up. It was interesting when we used to be, when I used to ride the DSs, if they got really bored in the car, they'd relay what they were eating for lunch down the radio to us, or play
torture.
the tunes that they were listening to down the radio if there wasn't much happening. And of course they can be so far back, can't they? So they might not even be able to see the race, kilometres behind the race itself. So different ways to amuse themselves, I guess.
They've got past the time and the boredom as well, haven't they? Hello to all the sports directors in the cars, by the way, following on board. Mind you, there's that little happening. They've probably got us switched off at the minute, and they've got the music on. I would not blame them. The only downside is they're missing Adam Blythe, aren't they?
Don't big him up too much, Rob.
Sorry.
Don't say sorry either, Rob.
Anything else?
You're doing a cracking job. And I very much like that paint job on Remco's bike. And white bar tape. Don't see it around that often.
They must have had an idea that he was going into the white jersey at some point.
Do you know I'd love to see with white bar tape is Van der Poel.
And white shorts.
And white shorts, yeah. Just generally white everything.
There might be a moment for that this tour. We'll see. He's not been averse to the white shorts before.
I know, but you know, he's not won in them. That's the only thing.
It's getting superstitious now, is it?
I reckon it is, because he's not won in them. And he's always wearing his orange glasses when he's up for it. The days that he's not, he'll put on a different set of specs.
Did you ever have any superstitions, Adam? We were talking about it the other day. I was talking about it with Robbie and how Laura Kenny used to make me stand on a wet towel before a race. That was the weirdest superstition. Yeah, but I guess she'd done it once and then we'd won, or she'd won, more likely, and then we had to do it every time then.
That'd be a pain though, wouldn't it? Did you dry him after?
No, I just had to change my socks, didn't I?
Yeah, exactly. Pain that is. No, I didn't have any at all. Just got on, and you've got like however long, haven't you? 5 hours in the saddle to worry about all your superstitions. No, never had them whatsoever. Interestingly as well, I noticed earlier, talking a bit about little details, you know, we saw Cav's bike the other day with the aero bottles on, the TT bottles. All of Lidl Trek's bike are now TT bottles. so they're not the traditional round bottles anymore.
Mads Pedersen had them on that stage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they hadn't changed it. But
I think it's, I could be wrong, but it looks like all the team have got them on, which obviously makes life a lot easier than just one person.
Yeah, it's either or, isn't it, for logistical purposes, sure.
I think you can get away with it for one person, but if there was 2 or 3, possibly it starts to become a bit painful. But if it's all of them, that's the easiest thing.
and you'd swap
Would it be a
bottles
cost
between
thing?
yourself, wouldn't you? It would be
Yeah,
a pain.
yeah. What was that, Rob?
Sorry, would it be a cost thing that would stop you doing it for more than 1 or 2 riders? Do they cost more? Why
No.
would you only have one rider? Rider preference, maybe?
No, well, if it's 1 or 2 riders, say for Mark Cavendish, they're obviously more aero. So for Mark, he wants as much aero as he can, but it might have just been introduced to use them. But we'll get back onto that because we're going to hear from the lovely Jens Voigt.
So here we are, waiting for the peloton. We left the breakaway, and peloton is just riding past us here. We are inside the feed zone. They will all pick up some fresh bottles. So again, Alpecin König riding tempo, and Tim de Klerk lead the track, and the team Astana also showing their faces in the front for Mark Cavendish. And that is the peloton. It's still long, which normally means higher speed because the peloton is fairly long like this. And now, first car is the race director. The next car is the race doctor. Just
We've
passing
gotten
us
stronger.
here, open convertible car. I used the chance to talk to them earlier today when we had a quiet start. They were almost delighted how easy and safe the start was into the Tour de France. Despite the fact we are on stage 5 already, we only had 2 abandons. Pedersen with a broken collarbone and a rider from Astana, Kazakhstan with a heat stroke. So only 2 riders had to abandon within 5 days so far. Probably close to be a record over the last 2 years in terms of how little abandons we had. And I asked him, hey, did we have any insect bites? That's a common problem in summer here. He said, nope, we didn't even have that yet. So they were absolutely happy and delighted how safe it was until now. And touch wood, it stays like that. Back to the commentators.
Doing the same here. Thanks, Jens.
Yeah, touching wood, of course. And it was a discussion we had on the breakaway earlier today, how the UCI have declared multiple measures in attempt to increase the safety of this sport, and they're in a test period currently, and they'll be finalised and implemented at the end of December. So there's 5 that are currently being tested, not all here in the Tour de France, but they are the introduction of yellow cards, the option to expand the 3K rule to 5 kilometres if it's a particularly technical finish. Today is 4 kilometres. The appointment of a safer safety analyst, so someone who will go out and recon the stages or the races for the riders beforehand and pick out any specifically dangerous parts that need to be highlighted that the riders are aware of beforehand. The restriction of earpieces, a limit to 2 per team, which ultimately is trying to prevent everyone trying to move up at the same time. And the 3-second rule in sprint stages. So that is another one that is being used today. So instead of that 1 second, it is now a 3-second rule. So it'll just stop those GC riders getting too nervous in the finale.
Brilliant recap, Danny, and lots going on, and that safer initiative really kicking into action, isn't it, at the moment? As you say, in December, at the end of the season, we will see much more action on that, as the average speed today is at 38.
Yeah, and it's really important, isn't it? We've talked about it so much, especially this season, because of the crashes that we've had and the impact that it's had on our riders. And it's great, I think, that the UCI are listening now, and something has been put in place. I actually heard an interview from Richard Pluger, the boss of Visma, who commented after the crash in the Dauphiné, asking the question, would this happen in Formula One? So it's important, it's great, and again, touch wood, that we haven't seen anything so far in this tour, and yeah, chapeau to the UCI for doing something. .96.5 Ks to go. We
realise it's a slow burn today. We're enjoying having a chat though. Hope you're enjoying being with us. Quick point you in the direction of the Eurosport Cycling YouTube channel. Latest gruppetto out this week is a really short one. Might better watch it in the next commercial break actually. It's a quick interview with Derek G there, plus the daily highlights available too. Well, spare wheels if you need one.
Hey up, Rob.
Go on.
How's
What's coming? I always worry when you say that. What's coming, Adam?
How's the diet going? How's the new food going?
Right.
Well, I just worried the other day because you said you can't have steak, and I know how much you like a steak. Really random, this, folks, listening at home, but I thought I'd bring a bit of general life into it so you get updates on Rob Hatch just to make sure he's all right.
I think they hear far enough. Far too much of me, never mind that. But there doesn't need to be more of me in the world, Adam. Let's leave it at that, shall we? It's
there
about
needs
the
to be
riders.
1,000, Rob Hatch. If you could clone you, it'd be absolutely excellent. It'd be brilliant. Get Rob Hatch on that Calm app. You know, where you read people to sleep. That'd be
Thanks,
brilliant.
mate.
No,
what
but
a
in like
ringing endorsement that is.
In a nice way. Do you know, Matthew McConaughey's on there. There's loads of people on that. So
You're trying to
Stephen
save it
Fry. There's loads of people, mate. So you could go on there, just read a few, you know, read a book like an audiobook, and people would, you'd be the last thing they hear at night.
Well, I've got a mortgage to pay, so if anyone's listening from the app, here we are. Get in touch with Adam
Exactly.
Blythe, he can have 10%.
There you go. 10? Come on, 15. Yeah, are you missing steak? Have you had any yet?
I am missing, but I've got a birthday party to go on Friday evening, and the rumour is we might be having a barbecue.
Very nice, very nice. Well, look, one day a week ain't going to work, Roberto.
No, it's not, it's not. Can't go completely cold turkey on it all.
No, you can't. Sam Bennett as well, we were just chatting earlier. You know, on the last sprint day, we had the new Van Rijssel aero bike.
Yes, very nice looking thing.
Very nice looking thing. Oliver Nason is on that today, but Sam Bennett is on the other one. So he's opted for the traditional one and not the aero one today, which is interesting. Maybe not as comfortable on it, maybe just can't find that position quite right on it, even though it might be sorted out with the mechanics the best they can. Sometimes you just don't feel that comfortable on it, so he's just stuck with his normal steed for now, his normal racehorse.
Some riders are more sensitive to others, aren't they? We've seen Mark Cavendish at numerous occasions already in the first 4 stages of the Tour de France, coming off his bike, making little adjustments to his handlebars or his saddle, and it didn't really bother me too much. But for some riders, I think it's more of a psychological thing than anything else, really, to make sure that they are totally happy on the bike that they're on, and it can really knock someone if they're forced to be on a spare bike that doesn't feel quite right. We saw some bike changes as well, didn't we? And our argument to that was that, sorry, a wheel change rather than a bike change, because ultimately they're more comfortable on their #1 race bike. So yeah, just an individual preference as to what they're most comfortable and confident on.
I'll ask after this, Rob. Sorry, I was going to ask you something else.
We're just going to welcome back our television viewers. Adam's smiling. He's got me worried again here. Stage 5 of the Tour de France, 177.5 kilometres today. Saint-Vulbas is the destination for the first time ever in this tour. It's one of the 12 new towns that are hosting starts or finishes. We've had a few of those in Italy already. Adam's just been telling riders, alongside Danny, about bikes and how some riders are more picky than others in terms of mechanics and getting used to things. And producer Doug's just been in touch, actually, to tell me that he was at the Bora Hansgrohe, or it was the Bora Hansgrohe training camp in the winter. It's now Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. And he was saying that Sam Bennett was one of those riders that did like to mess around with his equipment much more. We've touched on it much with Mark Cavendish, haven't we? And just some riders are very particular about their own equipment, and normal, because you've got to be right in the head and you've got to be at peace mentally if you can then go out and do the job. If there's something niggling, we've all got it in our own little ways, whatever we do, you've got to feel right, haven't you?
Of course you have, yeah, and I think a lot of riders have got the exact same training bike at home, and it will be slightly different to their race bike. And I mean slightly different. It can be something as simple as how your bar tape's wrapped. And I don't mean how it's wrapped around the handlebar in terms of what it looks like, but how it feels. Some riders like it really thin. If you look at Mads Pedersen's bike, he has got bar tape wrapped as thin as you could possibly have it. It's like a millimetre thick on the handlebar. And other riders, they've got the padded stuff and all that kind of jazz, but if you go from that really thin stuff to a padded stuff, or you put new bar tape on in the morning, it might just feel completely different. It might just be a bit off-putting, play with your head a little bit. So there are so many little intricacies. Some riders aren't bothered, some are. Some you can go on a training camp and some of them you're like, why is your saddle pointing that way a little bit, or why are you using that? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know why
I bet
I'm
you
doing
were
that.
really picky, weren't you, Adam?
Yeah, massively. Yeah. I was massively picky with it.
More on the colours probably though than the technicalities of your saddle height.
Oh no, I used to hate saddle height. It was a right faff. Saddle height, like where your saddle being completely flat, the way your levers pointed if a little bit out and not, just hated it.
Wow, the new possible bunch sprint today. First and foremost, how have you dealt with the heat and the fatigue we've heard some of the sprinters have dealt with in the first couple of days?
Well, with the heat was quite okay for me, but yesterday I had a tough day. Really suffered a lot, and was a struggle to come to the finish. So yeah, I hope we'll feel better today.
New possible bunch sprint. With what confidence are you going into today's sprint, and are you planning to sprint today?
I think it depends on how I feel. Yeah, the first stage, first bunch sprint, I didn't end up sprinting because of the crash. There I was really eager to try it, but yeah, today it depends on how I feel after yesterday, and of course my confidence is always a bit less in a pure bunch sprint than when it's a hard stage. So yeah, but I'm here to try and win stages. So
last thing, well, we know you guys as one of the most winning teams. The success you have, but you've been so unlucky this year with crashes, injuries. How is the atmosphere at the moment when you see your rivals winning here, there, and everywhere?
Well, I have to say it's been a tough year for us, of course. On the other hand, we had a really good start in this Tour de France with me and Jonas coming back from injury, but definitely performing on a high level. And I have to say, because of that, the atmosphere is really good, and we are really confident for what's coming.
Good luck today, Wout.
That was Wout van Aert speaking to Hannes Milke. Just heard from Max Stevens, who actually reminds me about a little bit of footage that I saw earlier on today. He spoke to Binyam Girmay, who was the winner of the only bunch sprint we've had so far. What a day it was for Eritrean cycling. Eritrea will have no doubt erupted when he crossed the line. But apparently Girmay is not the only sprint option for Intermarché. Even though he won the other day, he wasn't giving away to Matt that he was the main man, because Gerben Thijssen, we've seen in the past, is a really more, I guess, traditional, thicker-legged bunch sprinter.
He is, yeah, he's very quick, I'd say a real typical bunch sprinter, stacked, not built for the climbs, really. And I think if it does go uphill, especially in the Tour de France, he'll really struggle with it because the pace is so high. I'd say today, with a headwind, he'll be fine on the climbs. It's not going to be much of a difficulty for him. I think, you know, with that two-pronged attack of those two sprinters, Girmay's won already, but he wasn't really expected to win on that day. He wasn't the main sprinter. Thijssen was up there, right up there. He was just too far forward. So I think that they want to give him a chance, and today's a great day for him to try again. So even with Girmay, you know, with that motivation behind him, if he can do a lead out like he did the sprint just a few 100 metres early, then Gerben Thijssen has got a fantastic opportunity at winning the stage today. Of course he has. What I was going to ask you earlier, Rob,
goes back. Coming. I was trying to fill, and I've only got a couple more kilometres before I'm off for a break, but I haven't made it. Go on.
This might fill it. Do you remember back in the day a little bit, when there used to be nine-man teams?
Oh, yes.
Imagine a day like this, if there was nine-man teams, how much more attacking there would be and a bit more chaos would be. Just with that one extra rider in there, it might open up a whole new dimension to the race. I think having the 8-man teams is great for safety and numbers and things like that, but I just think on a day like this where you've got these relatively flat days, that one extra man would just spice things up that little bit more, give that little bit more opportunity to the stage hunters, etc. So what I'm getting at is, should we get a petition sorted to bring back 9-man teams?
You're well into petitions this week.
Love it. Ban the nose piece. 9-man teams.
I enjoyed the 9-man teams because I just like the bigger peloton from a pure watching a Grand Tour point of view, more stories, more people, all sorts of stuff going on. I can understand the counter argument to what you're saying, because people will come in and say, oh, hang on a bit, what about the GC teams who are dominating? We don't want them to have even more power. I understand that argument and the safety argument. However, yeah, on days like this, Adam, completely understand where you're coming from. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I see both sides, to be honest. You know, pros versus cons and all of that. I like it how it is. I'm going to stick with the new modern way of bike racing.
Modern bike racing, eh? Thankfully, we're still going through beautiful traditional lands, and I'm going to wave goodbye for the next little while. I'll be along later on with Mr. Sean Kelly and Mr. Robbie McEwen. Sprinters, elbows in. I'll be trying to referee their fight. For now, it's Mr. Colton Cook.
Thank you, Rob. Lovely part of the world, this. You can probably hear the crackle in the background here. It's not just the fans. It's Sean Kelly tucking into a bounty.
A bounty? Didn't put you down for a bounty, Sean.
Oh, he loves a bounty. That's a friendly gesture he's showing you there. There are two pieces to the bounty. I think that's what he's indicating.
I bet there was two gestures being put up as well.
3.5 minutes, just about. And the atmosphere rather lovely through this town. Let's have a listen. And to be honest, they deserve all the applause that they can possibly get. Adam, it's on days like this that it can feel like a short straw, but you're welcome like a hero if you're in the break. You're the first announcement of the race coming through. So the arms haven't quite got tired. The clapping is still perhaps more intense. There are benefits for being up the road, aren't there?
Of course there are. Yeah, I mean it's the Tour de France, one of the biggest sport events in the world, and these two are at the forefront of it right now. So yeah. There is definitely. There's also the chance to get on the podium, most aggressive rider, get that red number on your back.
It is actually the world's biggest annual sporting event. Of course, things like the Olympics, which we'll be enjoying here on Discovery Plus, home of the Olympics, are very much every 4 years. Well, every 2 if you count the Winter Games as well. So yeah, it's a huge operation, and the numbers are absolutely outstanding. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people have to move, which is why they keep the route of the Tour pretty quiet until they've booked up all the best hotel rooms before they actually release the route, and for very good reason. For a few years, Adam, there's been a few arguments about hotel rooms, haven't there, en route? I remember they were talking about hotel doping at one time, not just because Richie Porte was given a mobile bedroom on board a coach, which was then suddenly banned by the UCI because they thought it was just unfair that they would be spreading the love, and some other riders may not have the same simple, if you like, setup and striking of your bedroom every night. But you do get some pretty grisly rooms, and they say it evens out over the full reach of a Grand Tour. I remember Andre Greipel at one point having a run of about 3 or 4 bad nights, and he thought it was actually deliberate and thought it was to knock back his chances in a sprint just so he had a bad night's sleep. And yeah, too many mosquitoes, I think, at one point. But what was your worst room?
Oh, the Vuelta, flipping heck. The Vuelta, we're down near Seville, and it was probably about 83 degrees C. It was just horrific. It was
Are you going to say no aircon now?
Oh, there was no aircon, and it was in a service station, but not like a nice service station, just a beat-up, nasty one. And the walls were made of tin, basically. It was just the worst experience. I was in a room with Mark Christian, and it was just horrendous. Like every hour, I used to get up, have a cold shower, wet the towels with freezing cold water, put it over your head. It was just horrendous.
And off the back of that, you surely can't perform. There's got to be a big knockback in what you can be expected to do the following day.
Of course there is, yeah. I mean, sleep's hugely important now, and that's why a lot of riders, they have their own rooms. A lot of the teams now, a lot of the riders, I don't know if it's still a thing, but I remember back when Team Sky was around, they'd have their own room. Each and every rider would have their own room, and then when the hotels got sent to the teams, they'd immediately go and book another 10 or 15 rooms, and I think that's why then they started to put a cap on the amount of hotel rooms you can have, because it could be a benefit for them if they've got their own room mentally rather than physically and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, having a cool room and a nice room at night, of course it is, but somewhere you can lay your head and rest comfortably is massively important for your recovery.
Long time behind us now, of course, but I remember Richie Port when he had his battle bus, the Sky battle bus, as it was.
Yeah, we killed it today.
It seemed like a great idea. It didn't have
Killed
to.
it.
He got in the same bed every night. He had his same favourite pillow, presumably his same favourite cuddly toy, and it took a whole load of stress away from him. That must have been a gift. Air conditioning as well, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive gift. I can go into this for quite a lot, actually, with sort of the mental side of it, because it is hugely important. But before we do that, let's listen to the Dutchman, Dylan Groenewegen.
Dylan, another opportunity for the sprinters today. Can you describe your what you know about the finish? Because I understand you only get sight of the finish line with 220 meters to go.
Yeah, actually it's a bit similar like last time. It's big roads, some roundabouts, then you make not a real U-turn, but you go right, and then yeah, it's really straight to the finish. Only it go a little bit more to the right before the finish line. So I think you will see it really late, but that's good to know.
And with a headwind as well, it's going to mean a very late sprint, one would imagine.
It will be again really hectic, I think, and timing, that's everything. So yeah, I think there are 4 or 5 guys who can win the stage, but hopefully we are the guys today.
I mean, you were clearly feeling very, very strong. You were frustrated about the finish last time. What do you need to get right this time? What
actually, I was in a good position just behind the gear bike, but yeah, he had missed the gap and me the gap was, you know, sad for me because I had a really good feeling.
Resist mentioning the nose guard there, which the team are refusing to talk about, mainly to make us talk about it. So we've kind of got to that point now where we're just not mentioning it.